So, when you think of the richest people ever, who comes to mind? Maybe some modern tech billionaires, right? But what if I told you the richest person who ever lived was a West African king from over 700 years ago? Let's dive into the incredible story of Mansa Musa, a ruler whose fortune was so huge, we're still talking about it today.
It's a question that always gets people talking, right? But one name just keeps coming up again and again: Mansa Musa. And his story? Wow. It's not just about gold. It's about power, faith, and a legacy that literally redrew the map.
And this right here, this just shows you the kind of impression he made. This is from the famous Catalan Atlas, a medieval map of the world. And look, right there in the middle of West Africa, they put Mansa Musa on a throne, holding a scepter and this massive nugget of gold. The mapmakers called him the richest and noblest king of all, simply because of the mind-boggling amount of gold in his kingdom. He had absolutely captured the world's imagination.
All right, so let's get right into it. The big question: was he really the wealthiest person to ever live? I mean, the accounts from his time describe a level of wealth that sounds almost mythical. So what's the real story behind the legend? Okay, so for a little bit of context, Mansa Musa wasn't just some local king. He was the ninth Mansa, which means king, of the massive Mali Empire. His 25-year reign during the 14th century, that was the absolute peak, the zenith, of Mali's power and influence on the world stage. So how on earth does a West African king become this global legend? Well, it all boils down to one absolutely incredible journey: his Hajj, the pilgrimage to Mecca, back in 1324. And let me tell you, this wasn't just a religious trip. It was a statement to the entire world. I mean, the sheer scale of this pilgrimage, it's hard to even wrap your head around. Just try to imagine a procession stretching for miles and miles, crossing 2,700 miles of desert and cities. The numbers involved are absolutely staggering. Get this, his procession reportedly had more than 12,000 enslaved people. And these weren't just any attendants. No, each one was supposedly dressed in fine silks and carrying bars of solid gold. And then you've got the cargo. We're talking about a train of 80 camels, each one loaded down with anywhere from 50 to 300 pounds of pure gold dust. It was basically a moving treasure chest crossing the Sahara. Add it all up, and historians figure he might have been carrying, wait for it, as much as 18 tons of gold on this one trip. That's a display of wealth the world had literally never seen before. Okay, but this is where the story gets really wild. Mansa Musa's generosity was just as big as his fortune, and it had some serious economic consequences. He gave away so much gold that he actually broke the gold market. And what's so cool is that we actually have firsthand accounts of this. When Musa passed through Cairo, he spent and gave away so much gold that he completely flooded the market. Think about it like this. He just dumped so much gold into the local economy so fast that the value of gold itself just tanked. The historian Al-Umari wrote that prices didn't bounce back for over a decade. And then, in what has to be the most incredible plot twist, after single-handedly crashing the gold market in the Mediterranean, the world's richest man ran out of money. Yeah, you heard that right. He'd given away so much wealth that on his way home, he had to take out these high-interest loans from merchants in Cairo just to get himself and his massive entourage back to Mali. It's this incredible, humanizing detail in the story of an almost godlike figure. So all of this obviously leads to a massive question. Where in the world did all this money come from? How did the Mali Empire get so unbelievably rich in the first place? Just take a look at this map. At its peak, under Mansa Musa, the Mali Empire was huge. It controlled this enormous piece of West Africa, including several countries we know today, and, most importantly, some of the planet's richest natural resources. And here's the real key to understanding it all. Mali's wealth wasn't just about owning a bunch of gold mines. No, it was all about location, location, location. The empire was sitting at the crossroads of these critical trans-Saharan trade routes. Mansa Musa controlled and taxed the flow of gold, salt, copper, ivory, you name it. He was basically the gatekeeper for West Africa's most valuable stuff. But Mansa Musa's story isn't just about spending gold. It's about what he built with it. That pilgrimage, it wasn't just for show. Turns out it was also a massive recruitment trip. On his way home, he was actively recruiting the best and brightest minds he could find. Poets, architects, scholars, you name it, from all over the Islamic world. He wasn't just bringing back trinkets, he was bringing back brain power to completely transform his kingdom. And he put that talent to work right away. He commissioned these incredible buildings, like the Great Djinjreber Mosque in Timbuktu. And the amazing part? It's still standing today, a vibrant hub for the community. That's a lasting impact. With his support, Timbuktu went from being just a stop on a trade route to one of the world's great centers of learning. He poured money into the famous University of Sankore, and pretty soon, scholars were flocking there from all over Africa and the Middle East. So you hear this incredible story of wealth, of culture, of building, and you'd think his legacy would be pretty clear-cut. But, well, it's actually way more complicated than that. It really depends on who you ask. On the one hand, you have outsiders, like the Arab historians who wrote about his journey. They were just blown away. They called him a great and just king. But then, back home, some of the Mande oral traditions, the stories passed down generation to generation, they tell a very different story. In some of those, he was criticized for wasting the empire's money and for not sticking to tradition. Which brings us full circle, back to that first big question. Was he the richest person ever? And the truth is, trying to put a dollar amount on his wealth is basically impossible. The modern thinking is that when people at the time wrote about his fortune, they weren't trying to give an exact figure. They were basically saying, this guy's so rich, we can't even count it. It's beyond our comprehension. So in the end, the story of Mansa Musa really leaves us with a question to chew on. He's remembered for the insane amount of gold he gave away, for sure, but he's also remembered for the centers of learning he built that lasted for centuries. So what's the real measure of a legacy? The wealth you can spend or the knowledge you can build?